So in the last video we talked about the heading tags and the paragraph tags. Um, and I just want to show you one cool feature about VS Code with the paragraph tag. Usually when you're writing your paragraph tags or when you're building your website, your paragraph tags may contain some dummy text. Now, dummy text may just be some random text you want on your page so that you can see how the page looks. Some people just write random words there, and that's a bit slow. Why others may copy and paste. The most popular being using lorem ipsum, dolor. This just gives you some random text generator you can use to copy and paste in your codes. So you can just have some random text there, and you can see how maybe when you're styling or you're using JavaScript, how your text looks when you're coding. But the cool thing about VS Code is that you don't need to copy and paste or write any random text. VS Code has this cool feature that when you type lorem, now this lorem ipsum you see here is just some random text, dummy text. It doesn't really have a meaning, it's just some random text you just see just so that you can copy and paste. But VS Code has this cool feature where if you write lorem in between your paragraph tags, it automatically gives you random text. And you can control the amount of random text you have. Like for instance, I can write lorem 50. Let me write lorem 50, and I'll have a text of 50 words. I can write 100, 200, any number at all. So that's a very cool feature about having using VS Code. So I don't know if this is an MS feature. I didn't really investigate, or if it's I think it's an MS feature. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's an MS feature. So if you're using MS in VS Code, you get this lorem ipsum random text. So that will speed up your workflow. Now in this lesson we'll be looking into the image tag, and to do that you just need to type img if you're using VS Code, and you have the tags appear. If you're not using VS Code, because some of my students aren't actually using it, you actually have to type this yourself. Type the angle bracket img. Now you notice that for our image tag there is no closing tag. This is because the image tag in itself is self-closing. We call this kind of elements empty elements. They only have one tag. Now you are seeing something like src and alt. src stands for source and alt stands for alternative. Now these two things are called attributes, and it's not just your image elements that has attributes. You can each and every of your HTML elements have attributes. Like if you look at our meta tags, you can see that even from the colors, this HTTP hyphen equiv has like the same color code with this source. That's because this HTTP equiv is an attribute of this meta tag. So you have attributes in HTML, and what attributes does is they describe the elements. They don't show on your web page, but they give your elements some kind of additional information on how they should look or how they should behave or where to get certain things that the element needs to display properly. For instance, this source attributes actually has the property of linking an image file to your HTML page. So if we have an image downloaded or an image on the net, we can put the URL of the image within this source attributes, and the image is going to display. Now this alt, I think I better just go ahead and show you. Let's download an image. Let me say Patreon has a very cool logo, Patreon logo PNG. Let's just use this as an example. And by the way, my live server is already active, as you can see right here. My live server is active. All right, so okay, this is the Patreon. Let's download this Patreon cool image. All right, let's put in our folder. Let's put in our image folder and save. Now we can see here that once it downloads, once it downloads, it's going to appear in this image folder, and you can see the image right here. All right, just to show you something, let me bring it out of the image folder, because I feel I have to do that to explain something to you properly. Now it's no longer in the image folder, and let's quickly rename this so that it's easier to write the path's name. Let's say Patreon. Yeah. All right, so we have our image patreon.png right here. All right, so let's there's something wrong here. Not yeah, because one good thing also about VS Code is that you can actually preview your image in the text editor. You can preview your image here. So let's go back to our index.html. Now to render your image in your page, your web page, all you have to do is write where the image is located on your system. Now we have the image in the same folder as our index.html, so all we have to do is write slash patreon.png, and once we save, our image is being rendered. As you can see, you have the Patreon image here. Okay, so to explain this alt, let's say for instance I don't write the correct name of part of the image. Let's say I write something like patreon.jpg, for instance. So this is wrong. This is not actually linking to this image, because there is no image called patreon.jpg in my directory. Once I hit save, you see that the image doesn't render because our path is wrong. But if we put some text in this alt, like okay, Patreon logo, and we save, we see that the Patreon logo, although the image doesn't show, but we see this Patreon logo text that tells us that there is an image file here. Now this is important because maybe there may be an issue with the image and it's not rendering properly, or the image cannot render in certain browsers and all that. The alternative gives additional information that hey, there is a Patreon logo here. Okay, so whatever you put in the alt attribute, whatever text you put in the alt attribute actually shows here if the image cannot be rendered. But if the image is rendered, you have the image showing there by itself. Okay, you have the image showing there by itself. And for these are not the only attributes. For instance, your image element also have the attribute of width and height. uh, and height Okay, so your image element has the attribute of width and height, and what this does is basically it controls the width and height. Like for instance, you see the dimensions of this image are too large to actually be a logo. I can just say that I'm gonna give it a height of 50 and a width of 50, and once we save, we have a nice looking image with dimensions of 50 by 50. Now this looks more like a logo. So this is one way to render your image element. But for good practice, I would say if you're going to be writing the file path of your image, usually use dot slash, which will give you the absolute path. Is good practice, especially if you're going to be working with libraries like Tailwind and the rest. And this would also work for you. I believe this is a better practice. Okay, so we're done with that. Now let's look at another way to link image files to your web page. Another way to do that would be to actually copy. You can link the image file from the internet. So a way to do that would be to copy the image URL, like we see here, copy image address, and once we paste this, any image at all, once you copy the URL and you paste it in your source, and we come back here, is this really the image address, and we save, you see that we are still having the same image being rendered. Okay, and to prove that it works, let me just pick up another image file. Let me just pick up this one, and let me copy the address, copy image address, and let me just paste it here and save. Let's go back to our web page, and you see that we have this logo here, we have it. Okay, but I would not really encourage doing this, because I don't know if I can get an image. There are some images you find online that actually the address can be so lengthy, and it makes your HTML text look, it makes your text editor look clustered with too many text. I don't know, let me see if I can get an image with a very long URL. Let me try this one. Some images come with extremely long URLs, but this is what I'm explaining. Now if you wanted to use this image, if you wanted to outsource this image from the internet to your text editor, just look at the lines of text this image URL is covering just for one image, and imagine you are having multiple images you are linking from the net to your file. This is not really good practice. So most of the time it's best to just download your image you want to use and use it directly from your local file. So that will cover those are the two ways to use your image elements to source your image. So those are the two ways to source your image files. You can either use the address online, or you can link it from your computer. Now that that's said and done, I would like to also show you guys some cool places you can get non-copyrighted images, because as a web developer I can't use these images right here because they are copyrighted. You can't just use any images you find online because of copyright issues, but there are actually cool sites where you can get non-copyrighted images, and one of them would be Pexels. So you can go to pexels.com and you find non-copyrighted images for free to download that you can use for your workflow. For instance, let's say you need an image of a computer. You can just type this here and you get cool images. You get different cool images you can use, or you need some other kind of image. Another one would be pixabay.com, and another one would also be unsplash.com. So from this sites you can actually get free non-copyrighted images you can use for your website. If you're designing something for a client, you have to use that to avoid copyright issues. Alright, now that that's said and done, we have covered the image elements with its attributes. Now I would want to show you guys some things or some little settings I made. As you can see, my text looks larger and the screen is more zoomed in my VS Code. That's because you can actually zoom on VS Code as well as change the font. If you come to settings or you use the shortcut Control comma, you can search here fonts, and when you scroll down you will see that you'll be able to change the font size. I'm currently using a font size of 18. If I make this maybe 14 and I go back to my code, you can see that it's smaller. So just to make sure that you guys can view the codes where I changed the font size to 18 so that it will be easier to view. Now also I changed the zoom level, and you can do this here, or you can open the JSON object here, which will show you all the settings you've made. For instance, look at this. Editor font size is 18, zoom level is 1. I actually increased the zoom level. If I make this 2, is actually also, and I save it, is actually going to still increase the zoom level further, but this is too much, so I might just stick to 1 for now. Oh, and I remembered I removed this from the image folder just to show you the difference. Now I'm going to place this image back into the image folder. So now that this image is inside this image folder, if we are going to get the image file, we will have to write the full path of where the image is located. Currently the image is not in our working directory, so if we let me zoom this out. If we do the same thing we did before, let me go back so that you all can see. Actually this is not here anymore because we already unlinked it, so this is not here anymore. So if we do the same thing we did, now that the image file is no more in our working directory, and we say okay, patreon.png, and we hit save, it's still not going to render in our browser because the image file is no longer in our working directory. It's in a folder that is in our working directory. So what we have to do is we have to write the full path, like img, which is this image folder, patreon.png, and once we save it, we have our image back. Okay, so if you have your files in folder, you have to write the complete folder path into the file to be able to render your image. So that covers everything concerning the image element. I'll be seeing you guys some other time. Please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get notified on our video updates. Comment on the page. I want to hear you guys talking about what you got from this tutorial. I want to hear you guys making progress. If you're having any issues coding, I want to hear your issues in the comment section, or if you have any suggestions, you can also hit me up. So till next time, guys, stay safe.